contacting these victims or families or tracking the criminals or the offenders in this?
Thank you very much. Each county, through the prosecutor's office, has a crime victims liaison in their office that works with the courts and the victims in the court systems and is given the responsibility to make contact with victims and provide victim support and information. Once a conviction is made, a victim can maintain contact with that county liaison, but also through the Ohio Department of Corrections if the person is sentenced to the Department of Corrections. The Adult Parole Authority has a liaison, a victim's liaison, that you can work with to be provided information about where the offender's at and things of that sort. And when parole might be coming up, or if there's a parole hearing, then victims are notified if the victim signs up for that service and provides the information they're responsible to provide, then that victim can be notified and have a presence at a parole hearing and be able to provide testimony at proposed parole hearings.
How are victims defined? Obviously, if someone is killed, there could be a whole host of family members and close friends who would consider themselves victims. How does it define?
That's one of the areas that we're working on, is to try to broaden that definition of who a victim, and I should say reasonably broaden that definition of a victim. When a crime happens, in my case, for example, the court system said one victim can provide testimony in a victim's statement. There were four sisters that would have liked to have provided that statement as well. Family members should have been given that opportunity. Our bill addresses that. But we have to be very careful in not taking it too broadly and saying anybody that feels they were affected should be able to provide a victim's impact statement. There has to be some relevance there. So we have met with the Ohio Judicial Conference, the Prosecutors Association, and Public Defenders, the Defenders Defense Association. And we're still working on ironing out those details of the legislation and making that as broad as we can with a certain amount of reasonability.
If I could add too, Jim, in the situation with my best friend that was murdered 25 years ago, his elderly mother lived in another state. His fiancée would not have been included. And so there was nobody else here. So there's got to be some opportunity for somebody local who is a family member, friend, or associated with them. And I think that's what we're trying to do in this legislation. I don't think that the opportunity for his elderly mother to come from Nebraska, would be possible. But certainly his fiancée would like to know more about what happened in those trials and be kept informed, and so would some of his dear friends. So I think it's important that there is some representation for that victim. I think that's part of what needs to be part of the justice system.
Are there specific types of crimes that this bill is aimed towards?
This bill is for crime victims. It could be any crime, whether it be murder, rape, drunk driving, whatever the case might be. It's not something that we're aiming toward any specific crime. It's for crime victims, period.
Do you place limits on the restitution, and what could victims seek restitution for?
The limits on restitution and what is considered full restitution are going to be set by the courts. And we've had meetings with the judges, and they are very aware of what we're seeking. And they want to make sure that we are going after appropriate restitution for our victims. This bill is not a bill that says you're a victim, you're going to get rich. This bill is a bill that says you're going to be reimbursed for what it has cost you, for what it will cost you. So the courts are going to set the limits set the amount of restitution and determine the process for restitution.
Isn't that usually what wrongful death lawsuits do? How would this be different than that?
Wrongful death lawsuits are, the question was, is that what wrongful death lawsuits do? Wrongful death lawsuits are totally independent of the court system, the trial process, and the trial that an offender goes through. Wrongful death lawsuits drag out, and with all due respect to the attorneys in the room, they're the ones that make the money. The wrongful death lawsuit can be pursued by a victim after the trial process or whenever, but it has nothing to do with the trial process and what the trial judge determines as settlement. There's a whole lot of other things that come into play with those wrongful death lawsuits, but just keep in mind that it's totally independent of anything the trial judge does.
This would not have the ability to file one.
No,
If
sir.
the court gave restitution, you could not, it would say you then can't file a wrongful death lawsuit.
No, sir.